Welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be repainting a Han Solo blaster toy from Rubies. The main steps that are going to go into this are sanding, priming, painting, and weathering. I bought my Han Solo blaster from Rubies on Amazon, but at the time of filming this video they are completely sold out. You might be able to find some off of their website or another site possibly. I will also try to include the link below. The first thing I did was sand off the words and branding that were present on the blaster. I used 120 grit and 80 grit when I had to. Next, I went to take off the barrel cap. I opened up one of the holes with my drill. Then I used a hair dryer to soften up the glue, and I used a screwdriver to pry it out. Next, I sanded down the edges just to make it look clean. Then, I removed the grips. If you want to, you can drill out all of these holes along the muzzle guard. It'll make the blaster look a little bit more realistic. The Hero prop has the holes drilled out, but the stunt versions do not. Next, I'm going to be going through and filling all the holes with wood filler, except for the hole for the screw for the handle. I want my blaster to still be able to make sounds, so I want to be able to change the battery. I also spread wood filler along the seam down the middle of the blaster. Then, I need to sand the wood filler down and get the rest of the surface looking uniform. I used 220 grit, but you could also work your way up to 320 grit or even higher if you feel like you need to. I started spray painting with normal spray paint, but I should have went straight to filler primer. You can clearly see here how bad the wood filler lines look, and the seam and everything, even my sandpaper marks. It looks pretty bad. I had to go back through and use filler primer anyway. Now I recommend the 2-in-1 filler sandable, but I do not have access to that here where I live, so I'm just going to be starting off with a layer of filler primer, and it's going to help cover up all those sandpaper lines and any other marks that I might have left behind. It's a really great way to blend all your imperfections. Next I went through and sanded down the entire blaster. I would recommend probably a 320 grit, but all I had was 220, so that's what I'm using here. Once you're happy with your surface, you can start painting. I went through and laid some painter's tape down over the battery area so that I didn't risk getting any paint into the electronics. I'm using a satin brown for the handle, and I'm using a metallic finish for the rest of the blaster. I figure I'd go as shiny as possible, that way I know I can dull it down later if I feel like I need to. Once my blaster looked like metal, it was time to mask off the muzzle guard. Now we need to mask off areas of the blaster that we want to have a chipped paint effect. You need to use some sort of liquid mask. I don't have any proper latex liquid mask, so I'm just using some mustard. Don't worry about every single edge and corner here, just get the big areas. We'll get all the edges later with a technique that I really like. Now it was time for me to paint the blaster black. I decided to go with a gloss black for mine. I think if I could do it again, I might do the entire blaster in a matte black, and then the scope in a gloss black. But I went with gloss black on this one. You should be able to see your liquid mask underneath the layer of paint. So now we're going to take a damp paper towel and just wipe up all the mustard, and it's going to take the paint off with it. We can also remove our masking tape and then put the handles back on. This thing has came a long way. It doesn't look so much like a toy anymore, but it still does look like something you'd buy at a Halloween store for cheap. With that being said, it's now my favorite part of the process, the weathering. The Star Wars universe has a ton of weathered, dirty, grungy props, and that's one thing that I really like about it. We're going to use acrylic paints for this process, and we're going to have a wet paintbrush. You can go over the entire blaster with a black wash to dull some of the colors. You can use raw umber and burnt umber to give it a nice muddy, sooty look, and then you can use raw sienna and burnt sienna to give it rust and sand and things like that. You can see in these clips I'm applying the paint pretty thick, and then I'm just trying to wipe it back off to keep it in those recessed areas and make it look super realistic. The key to making this look realistic is to keep all the colors random. Don't have one consistent wash of the same color. It should look really organic. Now that we already got our chipped paint done, our weathering done, it's time to do some scuffed paint along all the corners and edges. For this you can use a silver Sharpie if you want to, but really the best thing you can possibly use is silver leaf rub and buff. I apply mine with a toothpick so I can keep a very good control of where it's going and make sure I don't accidentally put too much. With most blasters and guns, it can be really easy to overdo it at this stage, but Han Solo's DL-44 is super beat up, so don't feel bad about doing too much on this one. The last step is to clear coat the blaster, because that rub and buff can smudge really easily. And with that, you're done. This is a pretty simple project. This could be done in a couple days, but it took me a few extra days. But I really do like these toy makeovers. They're a lot of fun. If you want a great way to display this prop, I recommend going on Thingiverse and downloading a file so you can 3D print and stand for it. I appreciate you checking out this video. I plan on making a lot more videos on this channel. Going to be 3D printing and painting and all sorts of different stuff. We're going to be doing all sorts of movie props and other fun projects. So subscribe if you want to see what else I make.